In looking at the way that our teams are structured, especially after the Montreal merger with Turbulence, we decided to combine USPU as well as Montreal PU into NAPU.
NAPU stands for North American Persistent Universe.
NAPU is the regroupment of 3 different cities.
In order to kind of create a super team that gives them a lot of coding firepower as well as design firepower.
NAPU is really a collection of people from Austin, from LA, from Montreal.
We're all just getting together to try to make some amazing new features for Star Citizen PU.
So that includes physicalized cargo, in-game shops, and newer features that we're looking into, such as exploration.
We're working on mostly currently cargo and things regarding that. We recently finished work on the Hull C.
NAPU was formed in order to work on larger feature sets for Star Citizen, so that those features have the time and resources required to deliver them at the quality level that we want to see. NAPU includes several engineers, production, and QA.
We have 6 different programmers, actually. We have a few that are in LA, and then we have a few more in Austin.
Right now that includes James, Mitch, Kevin, myself, as well as Preston on production and Alicia in QA. Did I say everyone?
We have Mathieu and Emma that are here in Montreal.
Yes, I think I got them all.
So at this point, a lot of what we're working on is still in the design phase.
I would say in the technical design and planning phase, but yeah.
There's a lot of TDD, like technical design document going on, preparing the feature and all the parts. There's a lot of work in that area.
The North American Persistent Universe team are currently at the forefront of the next major evolution of cargo, hangar, and related inventory systems. And as their work begins to enter the PU over the next 3 to 6 to 9 months and beyond, all building to what we hope will collectively become a true cargo career, we here at ISC, well, we didn't want to wait to begin telling the story. As much like the engineering and resource management systems of the EU-PU team, this work promises to be utterly transformative to the overall Star Citizen experience. So these next 2 shows, well, they're going to be a bit different than normal. That's because we're not going to have anything to dazzle your eyeballs with just yet. Yes, the ISC gameplay capture team, as great as they are, well, we're going to let them take a break this week as we let members of the NAPU team take you through the design and intention of their current work in a 2-part special we're calling Design Brief Cargo Career.
The focus of NAPU in the foreseeable future is going to include features such as freight elevators and instance hangars, as well as persistent hangars. Freight elevators are one of the biggest changes to cargo that we've seen in the entire history of the game. They bring the feature from being something that's somewhat magical to something that's physical. It adds friction, but also a gameplay experience around hauling cargo in our game. This one addition, I think, is going to change not just cargo, but also the way that we interact with everything else in the game: inventory, player items, purchases, ship items. It's a fundamental change to how players are going to deal with the world. Freight elevators are going to be implemented as an access point inside of player hangars,
where the player can interface with cargo to get it ready to put it on their ship.
and you'll use a kiosk to interact with the freight platform in order to call things up from your inventory or to put things into your inventory. The way that the freight elevators are going to be implemented is actually using the same technology as we use for the cargo grids in the ships. Players will be using their tractor beams in order to detach things from the platform and then haul it onto their ship, and vice versa. They'll be using the tractor beams in order to detach things from the cargo grids and put them onto the freight platform. I think that this is going to make the whole experience feel a lot more tactile and organic, as well as there's a lot of fun and interesting gameplay around just how you stack things, how you sequence them, take a group of people, decide how you're actually going to load things together. It's like that time that you go and move with a U-Haul and your friends, you got to figure out where to put the couch, but in-game. It's going to be figuring out where do we take that big box, where do we put the ship items, where do we put the guns, and try to sequence it in a way that's both optimal as well as, I think, fun.
We don't just want to have the feature exists in a void. Really what we want to try and do is work with the whole scope of the game to support cargo. So this is something for outposts, for UGF, where we want to look at how do we really take advantage of cargo in these spaces.
However, it does mean that the outpost will also support the same manual loading process that the hangars and those other locations use.
So not only are you participating in cargo, in a hangar, in a station, but out in the verse as well, at an outpost.
And while freight elevators will be available throughout locations in the persistent universe, much of the work involved in manually loading and unloading your vehicles will always involve your hangars, which presented the team with some unique challenges to address and overcome, starting with the next iteration of instanced hangars.
Instanced hangars solve a particular problem. How do we have people spending an extended period of time in their hangar loading cargo now that we've added these freight platforms, but also allow the locations to have traffic coming in and out of the landing zones? What we're doing here is decoupling the access to a hangar from the occupancy. And all that really means is that we can dynamically create these hangars at runtime, and they're kind of set aside for players to spend time inside of.
Without getting too much into it, right, you're gonna have a personal space. We're just looking at ways that a lot more players can do this simultaneously.
We don't want to have a big choke point of everybody trying to load their ships and unload, and all trying to do that in the same space. So we have instanced hangars as a way to put you in an area where you can feel comfortable, you can take the time that you want to load or unload your cargo, and really engage in that system the way that you choose.
And so you can actually have your personal space to deal with cargo inside a hangar. And depending on your ship, there'll be different situations and different locations for that.
But the thing with this one is that when you leave, things gonna basically go away.
Once you want to leave, you'll just make a request to ATC, and the hangar will move into place. We'll open up the doors and you'll be able to leave. And then the same thing when landing, you make a request to ATC. The system will allocate the space for you, open the hangar, and you can land. For the players, it will seem seamless, but underneath the hood, the system itself is going to be maintaining a representation of where all the players are, what requirements are needed, without having a bottleneck for players who are actually just trying to play the game otherwise. And then we have persistent hangars. Persistent hangars are kind of an evolution of instant hangars. And really what it is it's our first step towards real player ownership in the game, beyond ships.
The cool thing is that you'll be able to put your stuff in it, come back to it, and it's still gonna be there.
It's just whatever the player wants to keep inside their hangar, that's their home. They can just leave them lie around, they can arrange them however they want, be it weapons or cargo or dead corpses or whatever.
Very, very long term. I have no clue of any dates or anything, but you'll be able to customize it and upgrade it so it becomes bigger. You can have bigger ships in them. And maybe at some point even having them like at distant location, you could buy a second one. For now, it's gonna really be on your own location.
It's persistent to you and your character. And you can invite friends to your hangar, you can load up your ship, you can take the haul from your mission, out of your ship and distribute it to your buddies. So persistence of hangars is really important.
This is going to be developed more in the future, and we're going to use the same technology that we're using to build this for other things in the game, such as player hubs. And it's a real, I think, exciting way for the players to feel like they have a more permanent place in the game that they can call their own.
I can't help but notice the ISC gameplay capture team snuck some conceptual visualization in there after all. What can I say? They love what they do. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that everything you're hearing about today is the current intention of the design team at the time that we film this. Now, as with all things you see and hear about on any ISC, it's always a work in progress, and may, and often will, continue to evolve as development progresses and concepts are tested. Now, so far in our design brief cargo career, we've talked about how you'll move and store your boxes. So let's find out more about what happens inside those boxes going forward.
With 320, we introduced a new packing system that allows us to use a larger set of box sizes. Right now, That includes 1 SEU, 2, 4, 8, 16, 24, and 32. However, with this new version of cargo coming out subsequently, we're gonna be adding the ability to have what we call inventory container boxes.
Inventory actually plays a big part of cargo as well. When you look at the sheer scope of number of boxes and number of weapons and armor and FPS entities that we have in our game, we really want to make sure that not only is cargo physicalized, but that inventory has a proper location and place as well.
If you go to Port Tressler and you hit I, you'll bring up the player inventory screen, and you'll see that, okay, I have my access to Port Tressler inventory no matter where I am standing in the station. That's going to go away. This is very important because what it means is it gives the players a way to transfer in a very clean and effective way all of the loose items that you collect during gameplay.
A big change that's coming up is going to be having properties for those boxes. So that could be something like a box that's fragile, or a box that could be radioactive, or that needs to be kept cold. The other thing we're looking at with cargo and cargo boxes is the ability to store large items in your cargo boxes. This could be anything from a ship weapon to even smaller vehicles like Grey Cats. That way, when you're going with your friends, you're going to do a long haul across the verse, you can have these larger boxes filled to the brim with as many ship weapons as your ship is going to carry.
Anything that you think you want to take with you and hold on to, now you can put them in an inventory container box, snap them into the cargo grid, and haul it into your ship. Additionally, you'll be able to take those to the freight platforms in order to put them into your inventories. So it gives a kind of universal way to haul things around in the game, as well as a way for players to be able to pirate player inventories now. Now that you have these goods that are locked up together in these inventory containers, it just takes a tractor beam in order to carry them off. So it gives a lot of gameplay possibilities for us to have with these loose items.
A lot of these things will tie into missions and where you decide to place them on your ship. So we're really trying to make sure with cargo, it's not just a wide system, but that we're actually adding these kind of elements to help further gameplay, missions, and purpose.
You guys had the week off. This is a design brief show. It's talking and it's intent, and none of this stuff is ready to show yet. Don't you want a week off? Your stuff's so weird anyway. Just no weird stuff for cargo grid. Back to the spaceship.
We have some additional changes that we're going to be making to the cargo grids that allow them to have any sized item attached into them. At the moment, we have effectively one kinds of items that attach to the cargo grids. Those are the cargo boxes, and they all have a similar size step on the dimension. What I just mean by that is they're all what we call 1 SEU length multiples on each side. We're going to have it to where anything can attach to the cargo grid as long as it's a physical item in the game. Anything that you can grab with that tractor beam that can reasonably snap into place will be able to snap into place. And this is a requirement just to satisfy the inventory changes that we're making now that you won't have this kind of magical access. But it also, I think, broadens the horizons about what your cargo grid and all of your ships can be used for. I think it'll also open up a lot of fun gameplay around just figuring out how to arrange all these things in a way that works well.
So yeah, that's part one of our talk about Design Brief Cargo Career. Next week, we'll be back with changes to vehicles and location inventory, larger cargo item support, kiosk changes, the item bank, and even unique item recovery. So come on back and get the full scope of things next week. And as testing and fixing continues on Alpha 320 over on the P2, with the latest additions to Arena Commander and the Persistent Universe heading your way, you can check out the robertsspaceindustries.com website or launcher for details on when that releases. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the process of game development with you, and for indulging us in these mostly visual-free design brief shows, and we'll see you all here for part 2 next week.